I don't know. We're live.
We're live. Oh my gosh. Hold on one second. Let me just check one quick thing and welcome you all to the success code. We're unlocking the number one lies that we have been told about success and what it means. And this is a relaunch, y'all. If you tried to jump on here last week, and by the way, this show is all about vulnerability, right? So we're not gonna, be cute. We might be, yeah.
Well, we're just cute anyway. I mean, come on. That's just who we are, right? Let's be
Right?
real.
Yeah. But it's not intended. This is a vulnerable show. So I want you guys to come in here. Anybody who's jumping on and on the replay, I want you to come in here with an open mind. It's going to have structure, but this is going to be conversations about the success code. I want you to come in and think about what success means to you, right? Because you got to figure that out for yourself, right? But maybe these conversations are going to support you in figuring it out and just get into your own idea of what success is, what it gets to look like, how you get to live. Because here's what I know, and here has been my experience. I have, over the years, until I figured it out by getting a lot of mentoring and coaching, I was operating under other people's values, under other people's rules. And that's why stuff wasn't working for me. So there's a key right there. I'm starting it out. I didn't even introduce myself yet. And I'm telling you all the number one secret. Okay. So welcome to the Success Code. My name is Lorna Sherland, and I am a business coach. I'm a business strategist. I'm a real estate broker. And guess what? I'm taking on something new again. I'm going to be joining mergers and acquisitions. I've always wanted to do that, and I got an opportunity, and I'm taking it. So that is success to me. And today, I have a friend of mine, one of the best people I know in the world. Such a good, great, big, humongous heart for people, for life. She lives a vivacious, this is my own introduction, Mel Maston. She lives a vivacious, adventurous life. Every time you look around, Mel is on another adventure. And I'm super excited to have her here. She's the founder of Decluttering Spaces. And I wanted her to come on here because to me, she embodies success. Ups and downs, ins and outs, right? All the things. And I thought that this would be a great experience for you guys to experience her, to hear her story, to have the conversations, and to really learn from her because she really has been living a life at the fullest. And I know her, right? So I know she even has more expansiveness that she's working on. So we probably will hear something about that today. And yeah. So welcome, Mel, to the Success Code. I'm super excited that you're here. And we're going to jump into the conversations. What, anything you want to talk about before anything I've said already that you want to jump into? And then we jump in and just start chatting about, what is success for you?
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have this conversation with you, first of all. And what I'm always going to say is you spot it, you got it, right? So everything you see in me, is reflecting right back to you, my love. So I just love you so much. And I love your energy. And I love what you're always up into the world and into the world, taking on all these new things. And you're always growing and evolving and taking yourself on. And it's such an honor and a privilege to be on this journey with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let's jump into the conversation. I want to ask you, what is success to you? And like I said, this is a conversation, so we'll probably go banter back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me what success is to you, girl.
I used to think that success was all about, generating a certain amount of income, having a certain amount of money in your bank account, and being able to do certain things and all that stuff and all the worldly things, right? I always thought it was all of these things that proved you were successful, if you had the house and the 2.5 kids and the white picket fence and all the things, you had made it in the world and you were successful. But even with success, even having money in the bank, even being able to do things like that, there was never any true peace inside, right? There was always still this restlessness, this irritation, like that nothing was complete. And through my spiritual journey, like what really has truly become success for me is having that peace beyond understanding that we learn that is possible through having a relationship with God, whoever your God is. But like having, like, you didn't create yourself, you didn't put breath in your lungs, you didn't put yourself on this planet. And when we think that we're running the show, that's where our misery and our suffering comes in. But when we truly get that we're not running the show and we trust the power that created us, like true freedom and success comes in that for me. Like, what is that? What is God's will for my life, rather than me trying to figure out my will for my life? Because my vision is like down here on the ground, and his is like way higher than 30,000. So he's got the big picture view, and he's just like, I love Woody Allen's quote. You want to make God laugh? Tell him all your little plans.
I love that. Okay, guys, you just started like on point. Yeah, we
Well, wait. Let me trust in the Lord with all your heart, right?
Yeah, you brought a memory back for me already. In Jamaica, our translation of that verse is "Man a plan, gotta wipe out," which in translation means men plan and God totally disrupts it. Right. So I love that you brought tears to my eyes remembering that, because we always said that when we were kids. That was one of the things that we always talked about when we were making plans, and especially when we saw that it didn't work out. Then we realized, oh, oops. Yeah, and it's so funny, right? I forget all that as I come through this life, and I was coming through this life, I forgot that, right? I forgot to remember, right, that God is the source, and He's in me, and that gives me strength. Which, over these conversations that we're gonna have, some stuff I've realized are gonna come out in these conversations that I want people to really take on, because it's completely. So let me caveat. Some of the stuff that you're going to hear on the show, you probably never heard before, and it's going to completely disrupt your thinking. And that's my intention.
Hallelujah.
If you know me, if you know me, that's my intention. Because here's the thing. Let me give you the definition under this project. The success code, where conscious leadership meets business and real talk. So you're gonna hear more real talk than anything else. I just stick business in there because we still gotta make money, right? We still gotta make money. So I love that, and I love that you talk about peace, right? Because peace can come in different ways to different people, right? Just like success means different things to different people. And for me, when I had the big house, 3,100 square feet, 2-car garage, 4 cars in the driveway. Man, that was a lot of pressure.
That's a lot of maintenance.
That and a lot of maintenance, right? A lot of pressure and a lot of maintenance. And don't get me wrong, those are not bad things, to have. And but I realized that it's not the thing. That's not the thing for me. And I see it's not the thing for you either. Yeah. And as you're listening to this, it could be the thing for you. But what is the thing that gives you, for me, and I'm sure this is for you as well, Mel, and I want you to jump in. What will give me fulfillment is the idea that other people realize their true authenticity. Like, what is it? What is the thing? What is the thing that will light you up? And I gotta tell you guys, it's not hard work, because when you are in the thing that you love, for me, when I'm in the thing I love, like right now, for me, talking to y'all, having Mel on here, I want to cry, but the tears are right on the edge because I'm in the thing that I love, right?
Yeah.
Bringing you people, sharing experiences, bringing you information that will hopefully add value to you and change your life. I'm in my zone right here. Okay, let me just say. So what is that for you? And that's the goal, is to get you to get to that space so that we're here to collapse the time for you.
Yeah.
So Mel,
Yeah. We always think like it's the thing, right? We always think like, oh, if I
okay.
get this thing, then I'll be happy. If I get this thing, if I get this car, if I get this house, then I'll. But all we have is right now, right? So
Yes.
how can you get that experience that you're looking for right here and right now, because it's available to you and it's not through the stuff, right? And what I learned for me is it really comes from truly surrendering.
Mm.
Surrendering
What does that
to
mean though? What does that mean? Surrender, to surrender.
it's for me, surrendering is truly getting that I don't even have the power to lift my thumb. I don't have
Hmm.
the power to breathe on my own. Like really getting that I didn't create myself. And when I trust and surrender to that power that created me, who I call God, who I call Lord, right? When I trust that power and truly surrender, then all things fall into place. But when I think that I'm running the show and I'm driving it and I'm forcing it, there's always this stress, there's always this struggle, there's always this angst inside. But when that true when I realize that I truly can do nothing on my own power, that it really comes from the grace of God, that I'm able to act and move and have my being, then there's that peace beyond understanding that no matter what happens, no matter what situations, because we're always going to have obstacles, right? We're not going to be
Mhm.
free from obstacles, but through all of those obstacles and challenges, the true peace that is beyond understanding has come over me that I've never experienced in my life in any other way until that true surrender.
Mm. Now, is this so? So you bringing up a question. I love that you share that because that's been one of my things is how do you truly surrender, right? And so is that for you? Is that for you a ongoing thing or is it a one time thing? Because
I wish it was a one-time thing.
well, but here's the thing. Mel. As you were saying that, it brought me back to my early days. I grew up in church with my grandmother, my grandfather, and when they talked about surrender, it felt like it came across from preachers like a one-time thing, right?
Mm,
Like you got to surrender, like when you you know when you gave your life to Christ, back then, right? When you gave
yep,
your life to Christ back then, um, it was a one and done. Like you gave your life to Christ, that's the surrender. What I'm hearing you say now is it's a different, it sounds like a different kind of surrender to me. Um, it sounds like this is a surrender where you let go of um, ways of being that you've carried with you, or ways of being that just show up because it's innate. You've been doing it for so long, it's there,
yeah.
right? Is that
Yeah,
what
well, I
you?
mean, like we're in the world, we're told, but we're still flesh, right? Even though we've accepted the Lord, we still are fighting our flesh. So our
Mhm,
flesh is always going to be at odds with our spirit. And
mhm,
so in every moment, there's a choice to allow
mhm,
the flesh to run or to surrender, right? In every moment, we get to make a choice. It's not a one and done. It's literally
mhm,
in some moments, I'm completely surrendered. And then other moments, I'm taking my will back and I'm running the show. Like, yes,
mhm.
Lord, I'm going to surrender to you and I'm going to do this fast and I'm going to do what you say to do. And then as soon as the fast is over, I'm going to eat whatever the hell I want and I'm going to go back to self will, right? Like, that's exactly what happened. So it's like, it's
Yeah.
moment to moment
Yeah. Yeah.
learning how to like what God really wants most from us is relationship. So it's not like, oh, I accepted Jesus and I'm done. It's like having a relationship with a friend. Like you communicate, you talk, you share, you get vulnerable. So God wants the same thing. He wants you
Mm,
to be in communication with him, but he wants to be, he's already in you. So he's with you all the time, but you don't remember that. So he
Mhm.
wants you to remember and acknowledge and turn every moment over. And
Mhm.
when we truly turn it over, like that's when the results go exponential, way better than you could have ever imagined.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that once you get to that part, and I'm going to shift gears a little bit and jump into the business for just a moment, because this is a perfect segue, right? Because you said, God wants a relationship, and that's what business is. Business is about relationship, right? Most people think, guys, remember, this is a vulnerability show as well. I'm sharing with you all of my moments over here. So please just no, don't judge. I'm not judging myself, so you don't dare judge me. Okay. And if you're judging me, you're judging yourself. Just saying.
Judge not, lest ye be judged, right?
That's what that means. I love this. Okay, so in business, a lot of people have this idea that and this is perfect. A lot of people have the idea that it's the grind, right? It's the
Mhm.
grind. You got to do more. 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 And yes, you get to do, but I don't know if it's doing more or doing it better in the way of having the relationships that can support the business growth, right? I can tell you this. I literally just got off a call and I'm sitting there and I'm going, okay, Lorna, why wouldn't you do this? 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 And I had to talk to myself as to why not, right? Here's what I was experiencing. I'm in this conversation with some individuals that I'm familiar with. I know how they roll. I have relationship with them. I actually stepped out of the relationship and I stepped back in. Right. So I had to talk to myself and I said, well, why would you step back in? There's a reason why you step back in. So these are the things
Yeah.
that are going on in my head. Right. So then when they offered this opportunity to build with them, I'm sitting there going, okay, well, why wouldn't I do this? Why wouldn't I do this? Why wouldn't I? And then it hit me. I'm like, okay, girl, you asked for it. You asked for this opportunity, right? And then it showed up in relationship, because I have a relationship with these people. It showed up in relationship, and then you're gonna question why. That's just And by the way, it I've been trying to figure this out for a minute, right? So this is all
Only a
this
minute.
only a minute, right? So I've been trying to figure this out for a minute. So when I'm telling you, I'm sitting there doing all this talking in my head. Like, you've been trying to figure this out for a while, and now they're telling you they're gonna do it with you, right? And you don't even have to do much. So I'm breaking a couple of molds right now. The
Yes.
idea of hard work and
Yeah.
the idea of business without relationship,
Yeah.
right? Those two, they don't exist.
Mm-mm.
You can't do business without relationship, and hard work is not the game,
No,
right?
it's not. And like we have the formula backwards, right? We talk about, oh, I got to
Yes,
do this to have this to be this, but I get to be surrendered to
be able
have
to
this to do, you know what I mean? Be surrendered to take the action in the surrender following the will, not your will, right? But when we're surrendered, then we'll take that inspired action that is
action.
from
Oh,
God, and then we get the results.
we got it backwards, guys. I'm telling
Yeah.
you, you
Let
may
me
not.
do in my own will and wonder why it sometimes works and it sometimes doesn't. And then when it works, it still has all this stuff, and I'm still not satisfied. I'm still restless. I'm still irritable. I'm still
Yeah,
discontent in my life.
yeah. And yesterday I was sharing with you before we came on air. I was listening to the guy who invented the Kinko business, the
Oh
Kinko
gosh, I
business.
remember Kinko. Yes.
Paul, I can't pronounce his last name. Arfalia. Paul Arfalia. I was listening to him in a podcast, and by the way, he sold. If nobody remembers, because Kinko's, you're more associated with FedEx now. He sold it to FedEx for billions. At one point, he wouldn't even tell the guy how much he sold it for, but it was billions, right? And I'm sitting there listening to this guy, a billionaire, and he's talking about all the things that, you know, happened after he got the $1 billion. He thought he was on cloud nine. He bought a plane. The plane cost him more money than he was cracking me up. He said he bought the plane. The plane cost him more money in maintenance than he ever wanted to spend. His wife was a big spender. She bought a $35,000 cabinet, and he had resentment for years until the cabinet got sold. I'm telling you, the stuff that I hear, the people who have money, they think differently, which is another reason why we're bringing this conversation in, right? They just think a whole lot different. So some of the things, I'm looking at my notes, some of the things that he talked about was having pillars in his life, work, play, and love.
Yeah.
Do you have any of those pillars? What kind of pillars do you have that are like foundational for you?
Yeah, I mean, the first pillar is God first, right? Like everything comes from God. And then there's, relationships, and then there's business, and then there's fun and adventure and health and wellness. What else? Those are my core five. But, it's like God has to be first, and then there's different pillars in your life. And it's like, for me, one of the best things, that helps me stay clear in what actions I'm taking is knowing what my big vision is in each of those pillars, right? And from that place of, okay, so what is my vision in alignment with God, like for this pillar of my life? And then when opportunities come in, it's like, is this in alignment with where I want to go? And if it isn't, then it's a no. But then if it is, then the next question is, does it fit right now, or is it something for later? But those pillars are guideposts to help you not become overwhelmed and take on. How many people out there like, oh, this looks like a good idea, and this looks like a good idea, and now I should do this, and I should do that, and I should do all these things. And you're like, you're so overwhelmed, you become paralyzed. You don't know what to do.
You don't know what to do.
You need to have.
I have a question. I'm interrupting just because I want you to go back a little bit. How did you just figure this out, or how long did it take you to figure that out for yourself? Like, what was your experience of yourself getting to this point of having the pillars, having the questions to ask for decision making, right? As you process, what were some of the experiences that brought you up to this point that you think you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing was not having like any idea of really what mattered to me, and letting myself, like, I had such, from all the trauma that I experienced in my life and abandonment issues and stuff like that, I was in a place where like I would be a doormat for people. Like I didn't have like any really boundaries. I didn't have any vision of what I wanted for my life because I didn't really feel like I mattered. I didn't value myself. And it wasn't until I made a commitment that I was going to put myself first and start taking care of myself that all of this started to come into play. I learned about pillars. I never even like pillars in my life. Who thinks about health and wellness? I never thought like that. But once I started to put my happiness first, then by having God first in my life, it attracted all these things where I learned about having pillars. And then I learned about, well, if I have these values and these pillars and I have this vision for my life, then that helps me make decisions. But if I have no vision, without a vision, the people perish, right? And so by learning to have that, then that helped me start making decisions. But it started from coming from a place where I was willing to put my happiness first, because I didn't. Like it was back in 2013, just as early as 2013, which really wasn't that long ago. It was 12 years ago. I was contemplating suicide again in my life because I was so tapped out and so depleted and putting so many other people's happiness in front of my own. I wasn't making time for God. I stopped reading because the person I was with thought I was like a walking Bible and a walking spirit. Like they couldn't handle who I was. So I like shut my light down because I was afraid of losing them because I had abandonment issues. So I let myself become a doormat. And by 6 years into the relationship, like I'm tapped out, depleting, and wanting to end my life rather than just, oh, why don't I just leave the relationship? No, I'm just going to, you know what I mean? And so it took getting to that dark place. Ready to like, I'm out of here. I'm out. I'm done. I'll come back, and back when I still believed in reincarnation, I'm like, I'll just come back and start all over again. That's not how it works, but that's what I thought then.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you again for your vulnerability, and kudos to you, girl, because it took me longer. It took you 6 years.
Well, no, I mean, all the way up to what, 2013, like, right? I mean, how many years? 1978 minus 2013. That was my age. Somebody do the math.
Yeah. And I hope this conversation will support somebody else to really look at their life and how they're living, because just like me, you put other people's happiness, you put other people's even other people's health, ahead of yourself, and you're down this road, and you're trying to figure out, well, what happened, right? And then you find that you're so I found I was so depleted and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? Unawareness. If you don't know, it's like this trap, this prison that you stay in for a long time, and it's hard to come out of it.
Yeah.
And you're chasing things that are not your values, and you think it's your values, but it's because you're so committed to the other person and forgetting yourself that you just get so wrapped into it.
And I think it's so important. So, I mean, like, those dark moments, they're absolutely necessary. Like, I wouldn't be where I am today from that dark moment. When I finally made the commitment to myself, to put myself and my happiness first, like, I was so depleted at that point too. Like, I had I found out that I had like hemochromatosis, which is an iron disorder, which literally your body doesn't know how to stop absorbing iron. So like I became like literally a lead weight. Like I was so tired, but so emotionally depleted from caring for someone else who had insomnia, and just so depleted. But from making that commitment within 6 months, Lorna, like my whole life did a 180. Like that's when a $50,000 check came into my life, into the mail, where it allowed me to take 6 months off from my job. When I took that 6 months off, that was when I got the idea to even launch my business. That's where God sparked the idea for me to even launch my business 11 years ago. And so it all came from that moment. And then launching my business and how he's evolved it. Now he's showing me that I don't just have this decluttering business where I help people clear their inner clutter. What I'm really doing is helping people remove anything that gets in the way of them having a relationship with him. And that my business isn't just a business, it's a ministry of healing and deliverance. And he's just evolving it.
That's the surrender. That's the surrender. That's the surrender, right? The surrender is, what I heard you say just now is, until you took on taking care of yourself first, that evolution could not happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is such a key to this whole thing, right? This is such a key to quote unquote manifestation, right? Because unless you take care of yourself, you're pouring from an empty cup, and the resentment. Let me tell you something. One of the things that I realized about resentment is, and I'm bringing this to the forefront for another reason. It's a key. It's a key. So every time I say it's a key, y'all better write it down.
Write that shit down. Where's that pen?
Y'all better write it down. Write it down.
Resentment, the number one offender.
The number one offender, right? And it's the number one offender because it affects so many things, including your money.
Yeah.
Right? Because what is resistant? What is resentment? It's actually resistance.
Yeah.
Right? And the resentment, if you're unaware that you have resentment, and resentment doesn't just show up like you feel resentful, right? It shows up like, hitting your car, getting into a car accident. It shows up like, a house burning down. It shows up, yes, I'm being drastic because, again, I want to awaken you. Yep. I want to disrupt you. It shows up like somebody who you love passing away suddenly. It shows up like um, you getting so sick, and you go to the doctor, you go to the doctor, you go to the specialist, you go to the thing, everybody you went to, and nobody can tell you what's wrong with you.
Yeah, and resentment, I just gotta say, like, resentment causes cancer. Let's just say that.
That part.
Yeah.
Right? So as you're listening to us today, where in your life is resentment showing up, but you didn't see it? I hope
Mhm.
you can see it, because if you see it and you're able to walk through the process of releasing it, I can tell you it gets so much easier.
Yeah,
So
there's
much
freedom
easier.
in that. And think
Yeah,
about it,
there's
like, it's not just these big things, like, the way to notice if you have resentment is,
yeah.
like, who's renting space in your head?
Yeah.
Who
Mhm.
are you, like, got energy on? We call it having energy
Yeah.
on someone,
Yeah.
like, who's,
Yeah.
like, taking up that space in your head? Because if they're in there and you're
Mhm.
feeling anything but peace inside of you and you've got this angst and this uneasiness, there's resentment. And in my work, like, that's resentment is one of the pieces of inner clutter. So you've got unprocessed emotions, you've got limiting beliefs, resentments, judgments, and fears. Like, that's the inner clutter that I deal with in my business. And
Yeah.
resentment is like the number one offender. If you struggle with any addiction in your life and you have resentment, it will take you out.
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 Out. And by the way, just like anything else, it's not a one and done. I'm just saying, it's not a one and done. You know, we do the same things in our businesses, but we do them differently. This is why I can tell you it's not a one and done. It's a process.
You mean
You
there's
know,
no magic wand, Lorna?
no, there's no. Hey, you know what I tell my clients? I tell them, and I tell people all the time. They don't have to be my clients. I tell people all the time. I tell them, listen, it took you 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. The other day I was talking to a 76-year-old woman. It took all that time for you to become who you are right now and
Yeah.
carry any resentment that you've been carrying for so long. You know, in a moment, you can recognize it and maybe shift it in a moment. But remember, you gotta practice. It's like building a new muscle. You gotta practice seeing when you're in it and jumping out of it so that you don't stay in it any longer. Right. So the recognition, the awareness is the first piece. Another
Yeah.
key. Recognition
Write
and
that
awareness.
down. That's a key.
um, and so just knowing that, paying attention to things that are happening around you, that's part of supporting you in everything is always working for you.
Yes.
Everything is always
Yes.
working for you.
The
That's another
universe,
key.
God is conspiring in your favor.
Yep,
Always.
yep. So before I think we have a couple more minutes, and I wanted to touch on
Can I say something about resentment really quick before we move on? Just
absolutely,
one
yeah,
more.
yeah, yeah.
So when you have resentment, right? Let's just not leave them hanging. Like, okay, so you have this resentment and okay, you become aware of it. But when you have a resentment, when you're hanging on to this bitterness, it's from a place of victim. Something
Yeah.
happened to me. And part of healing from it is looking at your part. You have
Mm,
a part in it, right? There's whether it's, and I'm gonna be bold here, right? We have a lot of people who have been traumatized through abuse and things like that, and we harbor resentments to the people who are our abusers, right? Where our part is in that is hanging on to the resentment and not healing,
mhm,
carrying that. So we always have a part. It's not that our abuser is right in what they did to us. They have their stuff, but the reason why we carry a resentment is because we're hanging on to that hurt and not being willing to heal.
mhm, mhm.
And so we
You know,
always have a part.
yeah, that's the responsibility piece, right? When you said it, remember this is a disruptive show, y'all, because I'm gonna bring it to the forefront. What came up for me as you said that was the idea, of us as Black Americans who still hold on to the past pain of what we experienced when we went through slavery. You know, I'm from Jamaica. Jamaica was one of the countries that um, participated in the slave trade, right? Most of my ancestors are slaves.
Mhm.
And I've learned that in order for me to move on in my process and become who I came here to be on the planet outside of being a slave, right? Or not being a slave, but being a descendant of a slave. I mean, today is International Women's Day, and I just wanna, and I'm gonna post it later on. I started to post last night, and I didn't finish it. And Queen Nanny, I'm bigging up Queen Nanny, who is one of Jamaica's national heroes. I'm gonna cry because she was such a powerhouse in fighting for the freedom that we now have today. And who did she have to become in order to stand for us as women, as Jamaicans, as humanity, to fight against the tyranny of a British rule, right? It's the same way you got to fight for your freedom from resentment. It's the
Yes.
same thing, right?
Yeah.
So just think about who you get to be when you stand for yourself in the face of whatever trauma you have experienced,
Yeah.
right?
So we carry resentments, like we keep recreating reality the same way. Like if you want to, if you want to get rid of all of that, like you have to clear it inside of you, right? So
Yeah.
if we keep seeing, you know, being mistreated and all the things that we see out in the world, we only see it because we haven't released it in ourselves.
Yes, yes. It's the mirror, what we call in my programs is what we call the mirror effect, right?
Yeah.
Nothing
Yeah.
is happening out there.
Nope.
Everything happens in here, which is why I said to you before, resentment shows up in the car accident. Somebody hit you, you think, oh, they just hit you. No, 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 no. They didn't just hit you, right? It goes deeper than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We call
yes,
it the principle of correspondence in my work. I love
yes, yes. So this is powerful stuff,
it. It's so good.
right? So you know, I love that we are having these conversations on International Women's Day. I just wanted to bring that back to the forefront. We have a couple more minutes that we have left here. What you got to say about International Women's Day? Bring in bring in women specifically in this conversation, whether it's in the resentment piece, the working hard piece, who they get to be, do, and have, turn it the other, like what do we want to say about that, Mel? What do we want to bring women? What specifically a message that we want to bring to women as we talk about the success code here today?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brandy, Joanne, Alex, and I, we just did a workshop for International Women's Day. We did it all
Yeah,
yesterday, which was
yeah,
so
yeah,
much fun. But I'll share vulnerably. Like I really struggled with being a woman growing up. I grew up as a tomboy. I had long hair, and I tried to do the makeup and the dress thing, but none of the girls in school ever related to me. The popular girls always picked on me. And I just related with boys more when I was younger. I was always a tomboy, climbing in trees and making bows and arrows and setting fires and doing all the things.
You were an arsonist, Mel.
Totally was. We had that story for a whole other day. Literally 5 years old, had my own rock pit out in the woods with my matches, and I was lighting fires. Like that's a whole other story, right? So I really struggled for a long time. And then there was a period where I used to have really long hair, but I never did anything with it. So I cut it off. And when I cut my hair off, like super short, it was like the last thing that made me look like a girl. Like, I mean, I had a boy body. Like I didn't have hips at that point in my life. I really didn't have boobs. Like I looked like a boy. So I started getting chased out of women's rooms. Like people would come into the women's room, they would see me standing at the sink, and then they would look at the door and they would actually walk out. But I literally had someone chase me out of a restaurant asking me why I was in the women's room. And so I really struggled for a long time with really embodying my femininity. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I did some leadership training where I learned, and I didn't have women friends either. I didn't trust women because my mother abandoned me. So why trust women? And then I was picked on my entire life. But it wasn't until I started doing leadership work and became willing to accept all of me, accept myself for who I was, that I started to become open to having relationships with women and trusting women in my life, and really being in that state, being willing to be in that state of receptivity. So there's so many molds and things that we think we're supposed to be, but the truth is, like, just being your authentic self and being who you are, that's what matters. And stepping into your truth and owning who you are, that's the beauty of being a woman, and not fitting any molds, and not trying to be the man either.
That's so good. And that's the whole point, right? That's the whole point of, we started the conversation with what is success, right? For me, that is success. For me, success is being who you are, all of you, unapologetic.
Yes.
Right? Not conforming to what other people think you should be, what people think you should do, what they think is irrelevant. Irrelevant. That's my definition of success.
Yes.
Because when you're in that space, anything is possible. You can do anything you want. Yep. Right? So I love that. I love that. I love that I love that we're ending on that note. This is
be authentically and unapologetically you. Yes.
Boom. By the way, that's another key. Okay. So excuse me. All right. So, we started out with peace today. We started out with running your own show. And it's so appropriate that we're ending with be unapologetically you. Any last words you want to share with the audience, Mel?
Just be you, be authentic, and be willing to whatever you call it. It's God for me, whatever you believe in. Like, you're not the creator of the universe. You didn't put life into your body, into your lungs. You didn't cause yourself to live. So be willing to surrender to that power that created you and see what happens in your life. See the shifts that happen when you turn over the reins and stop trying to control everything, and watch what happens. Just give yourself 30 days and see what happens in your life, from you trying to run the show to you turning it over to the power that's greater than you, that actually created you. Just take a test drive.
Yeah. I would second that. And I would add, be willing to do the work, because it's the music. So here's the thing, guys. And I love that you can't make this stuff up, right, Mel? I love that we're ending here. This is the hard work. Be willing to do this hard work.
And the key word is willing, right there. Like, you nailed it. Willingness.
Yeah. Be willing to do this work, because this is the hard work. Why? Because it's an unlearning of who you thought you have been.
Yes.
Up until you showed up here today, and up until you watched this replay, all the hard work that you've been doing. Yeah. And remember, like I told you, the Kinko's guy said, this is not it. And that's after selling his company for over $1 billion. Right? Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, because, by the way, I actually found it in the Bible. Money solves everything. Right? So you got to have the money. It solves everything. And it's who you get to be in the process. So the hard work is becoming and remembering. It's not even becoming, it's remembering who you are. Yeah. When you remember who you are and you stand in it unapologetically, then that is when you're on your way to success.
Yeah, when you get your true identity. When you get your true identity that you're a daughter or a son of a king, the only king, right? When you get that true identity, like, what else is there?
Yeah.
None of those old stories matter anymore. I'm a daughter of the king.
Absolutely. All right, Mel Maston, thank you for being here. This was a great conversation. I hope you will come back. Because there's so much we can unpack.
So many tangents we can go on.
We can go on. It took all it was in me to follow the structure I had over here.
Love it.
So to the audience out there, I hope this has been valuable to you, to everyone who's watching on the replay. Please post in the comments your takeaways, your aha moments. If you didn't agree with something, put it in the comments. Tell us why. We want to hear from you. We really want to bring the information to you that you want to know, right? And we want to hear how you think, because that could support some kind of thinking that we have that, you know, could make a difference for us too, right? It's not a one-way street. We're not talking heads over here. We want to have a conversation. We want to have a relationship. And we talked about that, business and relationship. Yeah.
Yeah.
So jump in here. Let's stay in the conversation. We're going to be back next week, and we want to still hear from you again. And resources. This is a new channel, y'all, and I'm going to be putting resources in the links for you, so you can grab free resources to support growing your business, growing your life. And again, share in the comments what you want to see, what you want in the free links. We want to give you as much resources as possible to move the needle for you. That's the goal. You get to define your success and take it and ripple effect it all through your life. So
Yeah.
thank you, Mel, for being here. Thank you, audience, for being here. And we'll see you next week on The Success Code, where conscious leadership meets business and real talk. Have a great weekend, y'all. Bye. Thanks, Mel.
Thanks, Luna.
Hold on.